There are moments when life feels unbearably heavy. You pray, but the heavens seem quiet. You wait, yet nothing changes. It's in this silence that doubt whispers the loudest. Has God forgotten me? You begin to question if your faith has failed, or if somehow you missed his direction. But what if the silence is not absence but movement? What if the stillness is the sound of God working on your behalf in ways your eyes can't yet see? Every seed planted in the dark must wait before it breaks the ground. The process beneath the soil is invisible, yet essential. The roots grow before the flower blooms. The same happens with your prayers. God doesn't rush perfection. He works in divine timing, aligning hearts, shifting circumstances, and preparing blessings that won't crumble when they arrive. When you can't trace his hand, you must learn to trust his heart. Because faith isn't built on visible progress, it's built on unseen trust. You see, God often hides his work behind moments that look like nothing is happening. The delay is not denial. The quiet is not neglect. It's a sacred space where your character grows stronger than your circumstances. He is rearranging the path ahead, removing traps you didn't even know existed, and planting favor in places you haven't yet reached. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every waiting season, it all carries the fingerprints of divine purpose. Worry tells you that nothing is moving. Faith reminds you that everything is. You were never asked to carry the full picture, only to believe that the artist is still painting. The brushstrokes of God are often seen only when the masterpiece is complete. And when that moment comes, you'll look back and realize every detour was direction, every loss was protection, and every silence was strategy. Right now, where you are, breathe. God hasn't abandoned you. He is not late. He is working in rooms you haven't entered yet, speaking your name in conversations you'll never hear, and aligning opportunities that will find you at the exact moment you're ready. You don't have to fight for what's already being fought for on your behalf. Rest in this truth. While you're worrying, heaven is already working. Hold on to peace because God's timing is never delayed. It's deliberate. And every time your heart starts to panic, remind yourself, if you could see what God is doing behind the scenes, you would stop worrying instantly. When faith feels like a battle, there comes a point when faith doesn't feel like peace anymore. It feels like a fight. You wake up with uncertainty pressing against your chest, wondering if all the prayers you've whispered have gone unnoticed. You try to stay strong, but part of you is tired. Tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of pretending that you're not afraid of what might come next. It's in this place that real faith begins, not the kind that depends on results, but the kind that chooses to stand even when nothing seems to move. Faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to trust God while fear screams louder. It's the quiet voice inside that says, even if I don't see it, I know He's near. Every great story of victory began in the valley of uncertainty. David didn't meet Goliath from a place of comfort. Joseph didn't find favor without betrayal. Job didn't see restoration without loss. The pattern of God has always been to test faith in darkness, so that it can shine brighter when the light returns. Sometimes God allows the tension to stretch you because He knows peace built without resistance is fragile. He lets you walk through the fire not to burn you, but to prove that even flames obey His command. The waiting season refines you. It burns away the illusion of control until you realize you were never meant to carry the weight of the outcome. That's when you learn the secret of surrender, the place where faith stops being an idea and becomes the air you breathe. You don't have to understand how things will unfold. You just have to stay close enough to hear His whisper. In the middle of your battle, God is not distant. He is there in every heartbeat, every tear, every breath that refuses to give up. He is strengthening you in ways you can't measure, preparing you to handle the blessing once it arrives. The battle you're in today is proof that something powerful is on the horizon. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't threatening. The fact that you feel this pressure means heaven sees potential in you that darkness wants to destroy. So when you feel weary, don't interpret it as failure. It's a sign that you're growing. You're shedding the weight of doubt, layer by layer, until only trust remains. And when you reach that point, when your soul whispers, "God, even now," something shifts in the unseen. The battle doesn't end in your strength. It ends when you realize that victory was never yours to win alone. The moment you stop fighting to control and start resting in His promise, you'll discover that faith doesn't just survive storms, it commands them to end. The power hidden in the waiting. Waiting is one of the hardest lessons faith will ever teach you. When everything inside you wants movement, progress, or an answer, God often whispers, "Wait." At first it feels like a delay. It feels like punishment, like heaven has put your life on hold while everyone else moves ahead. But the truth is, waiting is not wasted time. It's sacred time. It's the space where God transforms who you are so you'll be ready for what He's preparing to give. We often confuse delay with denial. We assume that if something hasn't happened yet, it must mean God has said no. But sometimes His greatest mercy is not giving you what you want right away. There are blessings that would break you if they arrived too early. There are doors that must stay closed until you've learned how to walk through them without losing your peace. The waiting season is not about God testing your patience. It's about Him shaping your purpose. He's refining your faith, strengthening your heart, and teaching you to depend on His timing rather than your own plan. In the quiet moments, when the silence becomes heavy, remember this: growth always happens underground. You can't see the seed breaking, but it's preparing to rise. You can't feel the shift beneath the surface, but the roots are anchoring deep. God works the same way in your life. While you're questioning the pause, He's constructing a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of the future He's designing for you. That's why He asks you to trust Him even when the timeline makes no sense. There's a peace that only comes when you stop trying to rush what was meant to unfold slowly. Faith is not just believing that God can. It's resting in the truth that He will, at the right time, in the right way. Every unanswered prayer is still being heard. Every day you stay faithful in silence is a testimony written in heaven. You're not being forgotten. You're being fortified. So instead of asking, "When will it happen?" start asking, "What is this season teaching me?" You might discover that the very thing you call waiting is actually preparation. And when the moment finally arrives, you'll see that God wasn't late. He was exact. You'll understand why doors stayed closed, why people walked away, and why prayers seemed unanswered. Every delay carried divine precision. The waiting wasn't empty. It was power hidden in plain sight. When you look back, you'll realize that it wasn't patience that carried you. It was grace. The same grace that sustained you in the silence will guide you into your breakthrough. And when that day comes, you'll see that the waiting didn't just bring the promise. It made you ready for it. When the storm feels endless. There are moments when life feels like one long storm, when every prayer seems to vanish into the wind, and every effort to stay strong feels like another wave pulling you under. You tell yourself to hold on, but the thunder gets louder, the rain falls harder, and hope begins to slip through your fingers. You wonder if God still hears you, if He still cares, if maybe you've been left alone to face this storm by yourself. But storms, as violent as they seem, have never been strong enough to silence the voice of God. The truth is, God doesn't always stop the storm immediately. Sometimes He teaches you to stand inside it. He doesn't always calm the waves outside you. He calms the chaos within you first. Because the real victory isn't surviving the rain. It's discovering the peace that defies it. When Jesus slept in the boat while the storm raged, it wasn't because He didn't care. It was because He already had authority over what terrified His disciples. The same power that spoke, "Peace, be still," still commands every wind that tries to shake your soul. When the storm feels endless, you are being called to remember who is in the boat with you. God's silence is not absence. It's strategy. He's teaching you to trust His presence, not His performance. The storm doesn't mean He left. It means He's revealing what's already inside you. Sometimes He allows the waves to rise so your faith will rise higher. You don't realize how strong you are until the wind tries to break you. You don't see how close you are to shore until the current pushes hardest against you. So don't curse the storm. It might be the very thing steering you toward purpose. The pain, the fear, the confusion, all of it can become holy ground when you decide to stop fighting against what you don't understand and start trusting the one who commands it all. Every storm runs out of rain, and every night eventually breaks into dawn. The question isn't whether the storm will end, it's whether your heart will still be anchored when it does. Right now, breathe through the wind, whisper your fears to heaven, and remember this: God has never abandoned a single soul who trusted him in the dark. The clouds you see are temporary, but his promise is eternal. You may not see the sun, but it's still there, waiting to break through. And when it does, you'll understand that the storm wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to show you that peace isn't the absence of trouble, it's the presence of God, the place where fear and faith meet. There comes a point where fear and faith stand face to face, and you have to choose which voice you'll follow. Fear tells you to give up, to control, to panic, to prepare for the worst. Faith whispers that even when you see no evidence, God is already making a way. Between those two voices lies the battlefield of the soul, the place where you decide who you truly believe in. Most people think faith and fear cannot coexist, but the truth is they often arrive together. The difference is which one you feed. Fear thrives on imagination. It paints pictures of what could go wrong and convinces you they are real. Faith, on the other hand, feeds on revelation. It reminds you of what God has already done and what he has promised to do again. Fear wants you to look at the storm. Faith tells you to look at the Savior. One drains your strength, the other restores it. Every time you choose faith over fear, you take back the ground the enemy tried to steal from your mind. God never promised you wouldn't feel afraid. He promised that fear wouldn't have the final word. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when fear still whispers. Every time you faced something that felt bigger than you, God was there, steadying your steps. The nights you thought you wouldn't make it, he was the reason you did. Fear tries to convince you that you're alone, but faith reminds you that the Creator of the universe walks beside you through every valley, every courtroom, every hospital room, every sleepless night. Fear says, "What if it all falls apart?" Faith says, "What if it all works together for good?" One voice drains you, the other builds you. You don't need to silence fear completely, you just need to stop agreeing with it. Every time you declare, "God is with me," fear loses its hold. You take authority when you remember that you were never meant to fight from fear. You were meant to stand from faith. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of God. And here's the truth that sets your heart free. Faith doesn't always change the situation immediately, but it changes you. It strengthens your perspective until what used to terrify you no longer defines you. It teaches you to walk through fire without being burned, to face uncertainty without losing peace, and to stand in storms knowing the one who commands the wind stands within you. When fear and faith meet, choose faith. Because fear may shout, but faith never loses its authority. God's timing is never late. We live in a world that worships speed. We expect results instantly, and when they don't come, frustration creeps in. You start to think God has forgotten you, that maybe your prayers didn't reach heaven, or that others are being blessed while you're standing still. But here's the truth that sets you free. God's timing is never late. What feels delayed to you is perfectly aligned to Him. He doesn't rush and He doesn't make mistakes. His timing carries purpose, protection, and preparation. Every moment of waiting is filled with divine precision. Think of how the sunrise never arrives early, yet it never fails to appear. That's how God works. He sees the full landscape of your life. The mountains, the valleys, the dangers, the opportunities. You only see what's in front of you, but He sees eternity. That's why He sometimes says not yet, because He's not just preparing the blessing for you, He's preparing you for the blessing. The delay is often the training ground where faith grows strong enough to hold the miracle once it comes. You may not realize it now, but the timing you're questioning could be the very thing saving you from pain. God will never give you something meant to destroy you. He will never open a door that your spirit isn't mature enough to walk through. That's why his timing often offends your impatience. It demands trust over logic, peace over panic, surrender over control. The moment you stop demanding answers and start resting in his plan, you begin to see how every step, even the slow ones, were leading somewhere sacred. God doesn't measure time the way you do. What feels like years to you can be seconds to him. He doesn't just watch the clock, he writes the story. And when it's time, nothing can stop what he has prepared. The person who left, the opportunity that slipped away, the door that stayed shut, all of it will make sense when the right one opens. You'll see that every no was a setup for the greater yes. So stop staring at the calendar. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's. God is not in a hurry, and that should bring you peace. The delay is not punishment, it's protection. The waiting is not wasted, it's preparation. When the appointed time arrives, it will come so naturally, so perfectly, that you'll realize it could have never happened any other way. Because when God moves, he doesn't need to rush. His plan unfolds with precision, beauty, and power. And when it does, you'll say with peace in your heart, it wasn't late. It was right on time. The weight you were never meant to carry. There comes a point in every life when the weight becomes too much. You start trying to hold everything together. Your plans, your worries, your reputation, your future. You pray, but you also overthink. You trust God, but only until fear returns. Slowly, you begin to carry burdens that were never yours to hold. You wake up exhausted and go to bed still fighting battles that were already won. But here's the truth that breaks chains. God never asked you to carry it all. He asked you to trust him with it. When Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," he wasn't speaking in poetry. He was revealing a spiritual law. Rest is found only in release. You can't receive peace while clinging to control. You can't live in faith while feeding anxiety. Every time you try to manage what only God can move, you lose strength. And every time you surrender what's beyond your reach, heaven steps in with power. Think of the weight you've been dragging: worry about tomorrow, guilt from the past, fear of the unknown. These are chains, not responsibilities. You were never created to carry outcomes, only obedience. Your role is to trust. God's role is to deliver. When you finally let go, you don't lose control. You give control back to the one who never loses. That's why surrender is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that no matter how strong your will is, it cannot compete with divine order. God doesn't need your panic to perform miracles. He needs your peace. The moment you stop striving to fix everything and start trusting that he's already working, you'll feel something shift. The anxiety you've normalized will begin to dissolve. The weight will lift, not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting the wrong battles. You'll realize that the same hands that formed the universe are the same hands holding your situation. So right now, ask yourself what you're still carrying that doesn't belong to you. The opinions of others? The fear of failure? The guilt of mistakes long forgiven? Lay it down. Every burden you surrender becomes a space for God to move. You can't rise while clinging to the ground. The peace you're praying for is waiting on the other side of release. Let go, not because you've given up, but because you finally understood that God never needed your strength. He only needed your trust. The proof, hidden in the past. There are times when you wonder if God will come through this time. You remember the promises, you say the prayers, yet doubt still lingers like a shadow in your mind. You think, what if this time is different? But it never is. God doesn't change his nature based on your situation. The same God who carried you through every storm behind you is the same one guiding you now. The only reason you've made it this far is because his hand has never left you. The past isn't a memory of survival. It's evidence of his consistency. Every time you thought it was over, you were wrong. Every time you feared the night would last forever, morning came. That's not coincidence. That's faithfulness. You've been protected from things you didn't even know were coming. You've been guided through decisions that could have destroyed you. You didn't avoid disaster because you were lucky, you were covered. And that same covering still surrounds you now. God doesn't start something in your life only to abandon it halfway. If He began a good work in you, He intends to finish it. Look back, not with regret, but with recognition. See the pattern of mercy that runs through your story. Notice how even your mistakes became lessons that shaped your strength. The heartbreaks that felt unbearable then are now proof of resilience. The losses you thought would break you became the soil for deeper faith. Nothing was wasted. Every moment you didn't understand was preparing you for this season. When you remember what He has already done, your faith in what He will do grows stronger. Doubt often lives in forgetfulness. The more you remember, the less you fear. You overcome anxiety about the future by remembering God's record in the past. Has He ever failed you? Has He ever abandoned you when you called His name? Even when the answer didn't come the way you expected, He still turned it into something redemptive. You might not have seen His hand at the time, but now you can trace it through every victory, every recovery, every miracle you didn't even know to ask for. The proof you need is already in your history. You've survived too much to question His faithfulness now. The same God who split the seas for Moses, who closed the lions' mouths for Daniel, who lifted Joseph from the prison to the palace. That same God hasn't changed, and He's not about to start with you. So when fear tells you this time will be different, silence it with evidence. Say to yourself, He did it before, He will do it again. Because God's record is perfect, and your story is proof. When nothing makes sense, there will be seasons when life stops making sense. When everything you thought was stable begins to crumble, and every plan you built starts falling apart piece by piece. You try to stay strong, but inside, confusion takes over. You ask God for answers, but silence is all you hear. You wonder what you did wrong, why this is happening, and how to keep believing when nothing adds up. Yet it's in these moments, when logic fails and control disappears, that faith becomes real. Because true faith isn't built on clarity. It's built on trust when everything feels uncertain. You see, God never promised to explain every detail. He promised to never leave you. And that is enough. When you don't understand His plan, it doesn't mean He isn't working. It means He's operating on a level you can't yet comprehend. The pieces that seem random now are part of a pattern that only heaven can see. One day, what confused you will become clear. What hurt you will make sense. What broke you will reveal its purpose. But right now, your task isn't to understand. It's to stand. When nothing makes sense, the enemy whispers that you've lost control. But you never had control to begin with. Only choice. The choice to trust God even when He's silent. The choice to keep praying even when you feel unheard. The choice to believe that the same hands that hold the stars also hold your story. That's where miracles are born, in the tension between surrender and confusion. When you finally stop demanding explanations, peace begins to flow. Because peace isn't found in answers, it's found in presence. Think of every moment that once seemed like chaos, but later became clarity. The job you didn't get led to the opportunity you needed. The person who walked away made space for peace. The door that closed protected you from disaster. If you could see what God sees, you'd be thanking Him for the very things that confuse you now. Nothing in your life is wasted. Not the pain, not the waiting, not the silence. Everything is being woven into a story that will testify of His wisdom. So don't lose faith just because you've lost understanding. God's plans are not fragile. They don't fall apart when you don't see progress. They're stronger than your doubt, steadier than your fear, and far more intentional than you could ever imagine. Keep walking through the fog. Keep holding on to the promise. Because when the light breaks through, you'll see that the very confusion you cursed was the foundation of the faith you now stand on. And in that moment, you'll finally understand that what made no sense at all was never out of order. It was grace disguised as mystery, the miracle already in motion. Right now, while you're wondering how things will ever work out, God is already moving. You may not see it, but heaven is active on your behalf. The conversation that will open your next door is already happening. The solution to the problem that keeps you up at night is already being designed. The miracle you've been waiting for is not in the distance, It's in motion. God's work rarely begins when you notice it. It starts long before, in the unseen, where divine timing and purpose quietly align. Every answered prayer begins in silence. Every breakthrough starts in what feels like stillness. Just because you don't see progress doesn't mean it's not unfolding. Think of a sunrise. Before the light reaches the sky, the sun is already rising beyond the horizon. The same happens with God's work. Long before you feel the warmth of breakthrough, He has already commanded it to begin. You are standing in the middle of a miracle that is still forming, and your faith is the bridge between what is unseen and what is about to appear. So stop measuring God's movement by visible results. He doesn't need your timeline. He needs your trust. When you stop trying to force outcomes and begin to believe that His word is enough, peace replaces panic. The greatest miracles often come quietly, without warning, without noise, just a gentle shift that changes everything. That's how God moves. Not always with thunder, but with precision. Not always with spectacle, but with certainty. There's something powerful happening behind the curtain of your situation. The delay you feared is the stage being set. The silence you misread as absence is divine strategy. Every detail is being arranged in perfect order. You're not waiting for God to start working. He's waiting for you to stop doubting. When faith becomes your language, heaven responds. When you choose peace over panic, movement begins. Every act of trust invites God to reveal what's already been prepared. And one day soon, the pieces will connect, the doors will open, and what once felt impossible will feel inevitable. You'll realize that the miracle didn't arrive suddenly. It was there all along, unfolding step by step, in perfect rhythm with divine timing. So rest your heart, stop worrying. God is not figuring things out. He's finishing what He already began. The miracle is not coming, it's already in motion, and soon, it will meet you face to face.